As we begin to conclude this lesson, we want to take a look at some of the final instruction of Jesus to the disciples. First, he gave them a lesson in greatness and humility. A dispute arose between the 12 as to who would have preeminence in the kingdom. They could not, in spite of all the recent teachings of Jesus concerning his suffering and his death, rid themselves of the traditional beliefs about the Messianic kingdom's physical character, or materialistic character. Jesus called them close, and he began to preach with a direct thrust at their selfish ambitions and jealousies. If anyone wants to be first, he shall be last and the servant of all. Then, wishing to enforce the teaching in a concrete and impressive way, he called to a little child, and taking him in his arms, said, "Truly I say unto you, except you turn and become as one of these little children, you may not enter into the kingdom of heaven." Jesus put the case so strongly that admission to the kingdom itself depends on childlike humility and unpretentiousness. The child knows no pride of rank or distinction, so the disciple must consciously put aside pride and selfish ambition for a higher position and give himself unreservedly to the work, leaving his promotion and service in the hands of the Lord. In his kingdom, the honors are given to the meek and the lowly who are self-forgetful and seek a higher place only so that they might serve in a greater way. He also teaches them the parable of the unmerciful servant. Jesus told this parable in answer to Peter's question as to how many times one should forgive his brother who had injured him. The parable teaches that there must be a readiness to forgive great and often repeated offenses. Forgiveness is not a matter of mathematics, but of love and of character. The parable was designed to set forth the character of forgiveness in the kingdom. We then see three would-be disciples, and we can learn a lot about these three would-be disciples. First of all, in the days of Jesus' public ministry, had entered in this time of passion in Jerusalem was nearing. And so Luke wrote that he steadfastly set his face to go to Jerusalem. Judged by worldly standards, his ministry in Galilee had ended in really utter and complete failure. Judea also had closed its door on him, so during these last months he gave himself to the evangelization of Perea. And three men approached Jesus, volunteering to become his disciples. The first was a scribe who stated, "Lord, I'll follow you wherever you go." However, Jesus responded that he had nowhere to lay his head, and this caused the scribe to reconsider his careless dedication. You see, he called Jesus Lord, but he had not really made him Lord of his life. This man was more committed to his own comfort than he was to Christ. When Jesus extended an offer to a second man, an invitation to follow him, the man asked permission first to go and bury his father. And on the surface, this seems like a reasonable request, since most Jewish funerals occurred on the day of the death. Yet one wonders why the son was out and about instead of performing the duties required by a death. In reality, the man was putting his family responsibilities ahead of his desire to be a disciple. A third man volunteered for discipleship, but he requested permission to bid his family farewell, and he therefore was putting them above the service of Christ. We then see Jesus going privately with his disciples to Jerusalem. Jesus was fully conscious of the near approach of his death, and in spite of all difficulty and danger, he set his face to go to Jerusalem. And as he went, there was such a look on his face that the disciples who followed were amazed and afraid. Jesus had planned to pass through Samaria on his way to Jerusalem, and the Samaritan village refused to let Jesus pass through. James and John, the sons of thunder, were grieved and incensed by the hostility of the Samaritan town. And they thought it was bad enough for Jesus to be rejected by his fellow countrymen, and it was too much for him to be rejected also by the Samaritan dogs. Therefore, the brothers desired to call down fire from heaven to destroy the town, as Elijah had done many years ago in another locale. Jesus answered that they did not know what kind of spirit had prompted their outburst. The Son of Man was come not to destroy men's lives, but to save them. This was the challenge of the ministry: to save, not destroy. Anyone can destroy. And then they went on to another village. We'll talk about it next time.